Women have made countless contributions to society throughout history, including many important inventions. Despite facing gender discrimination and societal barriers, women have proven to be innovative and capable inventors, shaping the world we live in today. Margaret Kies was the first American woman to earn a patent in her own name. In 1809, she developed a way of weaving straw into hats that was an economic boon for New England. By receiving that piece of paper with her name on it, Kies led the way for other female inventors to take credit for their ideas. In this video, we'll salute top 5 things invented by women. The square-bottomed paper bag. Margaret Knight didn't invent the paper bag, but those first paper bags weren't all that useful for carrying things. They were more like envelopes, so there was no way they'd become the grocery store staple that they are today. For that, we have to thank Knight. Knight realized that paper bags should have a square bottom. When weight was distributed across the base in this way, the bags could carry more things. In 1870, she created a wooden machine that would cut, fold, and glue the square bottoms to paper bags. While she was working on an iron prototype of the machine to use for her patent application, she discovered that her design had been stolen by a man named Charles Annan, who had seen her wooden machine a few months earlier. She filed a patent interference suit against Annan, who claimed that there was no way that a woman could have developed such a complex machine. Knight used her notes and sketches to prove otherwise, and she was granted the patent for the device in 1871. That was hardly Knight's first patent though. At the age of 12, Knight had developed a stop-motion device that would automatically bring industrial machines to a halt if something was caught on them, which prevented many injuries. All told, Knight was awarded more than 20 patents. Dishwasher. You might think that the first dishwasher was invented by someone who spent years washing dishes, bemoaning the wasted time and the dishpan hands. Actually, Josephine Cochrane, who received the patent for the first working dishwasher, didn't spend that much time washing dishes. The real impetus for her invention was frustration over her servants breaking her heirloom china after fancy dinners. Cochrane was a socialite who loved to entertain, but after her husband died in 1883, she was left with massive debt. Rather than selling off the beloved china, she focused on building a machine that would wash it properly. Her machine relied upon a strong water pressure aimed at a wire rack of dishes, and she received a patent for the device in 1886. Cochrane claimed that inventing the machine was nowhere near as hard as promoting it. At first, the Cochrane dishwasher tanked with individual consumers, as many households lacked the hot water heaters necessary to run it. And those that had the capacity balked at paying for something that housewives did for free. Undaunted, Cochrane sought appointments with large hotels and restaurants, selling them on the fact that the dishwasher could do the job they were paying several dozen employees to do. In time, however, more households acquired the device as greater numbers of women entered the workplace. Windshield Wiper. At the dawn of 20th century, Mary Anderson went to New York City for the first time. She saw a much different New York City than the one tourists see today. There were no cabs honking, nor were there thousands of cars vying for position in afternoon traffic. Cars had not yet captured the American imagination and were quite rare when Anderson took that trip. But the woman from Alabama would end up inventing something that has become standard on every automobile. During her trip, Anderson took a tram through the snow-covered city. She noticed that the driver had to stop the tram every few minutes to wipe the snow off his front window. At the time, all drivers had to do so. Rain and snow were thought to be the things drivers had to deal with, even though they resulted in poor visibility. When she returned home, Anderson developed a squeegee on a spindle that was attached to a handle on the inside of the vehicle. When the driver needed to clear the glass, he simply pulled on the handle and the squeegee wiped the precipitation from the windshield. Anderson received the patent for her device in 1903. Just 10 years later, thousands of Americans owned a car with her invention. Nystatin. Rachel Fuller Brown and Elizabeth Lee Hazen collaborated despite being miles apart, and they developed the first successful fungus-fighting drug. Hazen, stationed in New York City, would test soil samples to see if any organisms would respond to fungi, and mail them to Brown in Albany if there was activity. Brown would extract the agent in the soil, causing the reaction, and send it back to Hazen for testing. If the organism killed the fungi, it would be evaluated for toxicity. Brown and Hazen eventually discovered an effective fungus-killing drug in 1950 and named it Nystatin after New York State. The medication cures fungal infections that affect the skin, vagina, and intestinal system, and has been used on trees with Dutch elm disease and on artwork affected by mold. Kevlar. It was just supposed to be a temporary job. Stephanie Kolek took a position at DuPont in 1946 so she could save enough money to go to medical school. In 1964, she was still there, researching how to turn polymers into extra strong synthetic fibers. Kolek was working with polymers that had rod-like molecules that all lined up in one direction. Compared to the molecules that formed jumbled bundles, Kolek thought the uniform lines would make the resulting material stronger. Though these polymers were very difficult to dissolve into a solution that could be tested. She finally prepared such a solution with the rod-like molecules, but it looked unlike all the other molecule solutions she'd ever made. Her next step was to run it through the spinneret, a machine that would produce the fibers. However, the spinneret operator almost refused to let the Kolek use the machine. So different was this solution from all the others before, he was convinced it would ruin the spinneret. Kolek persisted, and after the spinneret had done its work, Kolek had a fiber that was ounce for ounce as strong as steel. This material was dubbed Kevlar, and it's been used to manufacture skis, radial tires, and brake pads, suspension bridge cables, helmets, and hiking and camping gear. Most notably, Kevlar is used to make bulletproof vests. So even though Kolek didn't make it to medical school, she still saved plenty of lives. Don't miss out on more enlightening content. Subscribe now to stay informed and entertained with us.